Hey guys, welcome to another ride in the Struggle Bus, where every wheel is an empty triangle. On today's bus ride, we have another pretty tame game, where there isn't too much heavy fighting, it's more of kind of jockeying for position while we try to grow our territories and reduce theirs, and they're trying to do the same things. But that is an important skill to develop as well, though the fighting games tend to be, more exciting. A lot of our games do come down to, can you be more efficient than your opponent? And today's game is one of those games. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one as well. As per always, I'd like to thank our opponent for playing us today. I'd like to thank you guys for watching these videos, and I'd like to thank my patrons for supporting this channel. So with that out of the way, let's get into the game. Okay, let's go. We are black against a 10K on OGS. He is knocking on the door of single digit Q. So let's see how well he does with the basics. We'll be following them as per usual, going after the corners and then the sides. So I like approaching 3-4 stones as opposed to 4-4 stones. And so we'll just approach low. There's more interesting variations when you approach low, and so that's what we'll be doing here. I also like splitting up the sides. So he's doing the diagonal, which is a fine response. We are just going to come back and make a base here and see what he does. He makes a nice wide extension. This is a good move coming off of these two stones. And I'm going to come back and just defend our corner. Curious to see what he does here, and he comes back, and this is fine. This will be easily invaded and reduced later, but we don't have to worry about that right now because we still have corners to deal with. So let's go and invade this corner, and we'll go with a 3-3 this time. We've been doing a lot of knights move invasions, and so let's do a 3-3 for this one. So he blocks that way. We will extend, and he's going the fancy route, but we're not gonna do anything tricky here. We are just going to push, and when he blocks, we are going to Hane, and white should Tanuki here, but he pushes one time. We're going to push as well. And now he plays away, but now this Hane feels pretty good, and so we're going to take it. Playing on the Hane on the head of two stones is usually a fairly strong thing to do. This isn't huge here because we're building off of a third line stone, but it still felt like a big move to play. We could have also played something like R5. And so now he's going to play here. And what's nice about the Hane at the head of two is that you can often double Hane. And we can do this here because it's going to leave this cut behind. And so when we defend here, we can extend, and we end up eating this stone. And so this is a pretty good exchange. White's pretty cramped here. We could even consider playing something like E9 here. But I think just to keep it simple, we will extend here and get a pretty big left side. This seems reasonable. And so now he takes his approach onto the final corner. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. And because we have the K4 stone here, I want to make sure that we're going to be nice and strong. So we're going to kick, and he will most likely extend, and we will just go and get a nice solid base here, and he extends back. And all of this seems fairly reasonable. We've got two large areas that we're eventually going to want to reduce down here and up top. For now, I want to take kind of the last open spot on this side. The only reason I'm doing this is there are some weaknesses with this shape. And so this will make this group a little bit stronger while going after the strength of this group. And so he does jump up. He recognizes the threat there. And so he is playing some very good basic Go. He's doing a fairly good job of it. Okay, it's that time of the video where you tell me where you would play, but we're going to do things a little differently this time. I have labeled a bunch of moves on this board, and I'm curious which ones you think are good, are nice and playable, where you'd end up playing, and where do you think that I ended up playing, and so we can take a look at that. So if you want, pause the video, give it some thought, figure out what moves you think are good and what ones aren't, and where you would play. So let's talk about this a little bit before we get back into the game. So right off the bat, I think we can eliminate A, C, and F, and they're all for the same reason. And you know what that reason is. It's too early to be playing second line moves. So I think we can eliminate all those because it's just too early for second line moves. And so that leaves E, D, G, and B. And I think cases could be made for any and all of those moves. So I'm curious which one you like best, and then you can see where I ended up playing in the game. But anyway, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are and where you would play here. So at this point now, we've got a secure corner here. We've got a group that's secure enough. Obviously, our left side is quite secure. So I want to look into either increasing one of our areas or reducing one of his, or both if we can get away with that. In this case, though, I see two potential areas that we can reduce. Again, we've got the bottom and we've got the top. I think the top is a little more open, and so that's the one I'm going to go after. There's a lot of space between these two stones in the center stone and this stone in here. I've referred to this in the past as as kind of a pivot stone, right? This entire upper, framework is all hinged on this stone. So often what you can do is just attach to this stone. So that's what we're going to do again. We are just going to attach to this stone and see how he responds. There's a lot of different ways that this can go. And so he can take either extension or either Hane. And there are various responses from that. But let's see what our friend does first, and then we can discuss our options. So he takes the Hane. So there are three options here. We can cross-cut, we can Hane, or we can extend. In this case, I think I'm just going to extend, though a case can be made for any of those options, but we're just going to extend and try to get life on the top side here. And if he goes to block us, we're just going to come out this way. And so we will play here. And so he pushes. We're just going to jump with the knight's move. And the reason we can do this is it protects the cut because we have the ladder. So he attaches to this stone, but I'm not sure we need to respond to that right now because our left side is pretty settled. It's okay if he comes in a little bit. So he didn't really go after this group, so we're kind of free to play away. And so now we're going to go back to the same thing. We're going to look at either expanding our territory or reducing his, or both. And in this situation, now that this group's a little cramped, I want to play Q18. This gets us a fairly large corner now and threatens to reduce this. His group is still fine. He probably does not need to respond to this move, but it's still a big move on this board. And then obviously our next target is going to be reducing this somehow. But let's see where he plays first, and then we will go from there. So he is looking to turn this cut on. Remember I said that there was a ladder, and boy, does that look like a ladder breaker. So we need to fix our cut, and I want to do it in the most efficient way possible. And it's possible that we could look at this attachment, but I think it'll leave us with undesirable shape. And so I think I'm just going to take the direct connection here. This also potentially turns this cut into something that white needs to worry about because we've just removed a liberty. So if we cut and he Atari's up, then we get an Atari on these two stones. So he is playing ahead. And I want to make sure that we stay ahead of him. So we're just going to come out this way. And as we're doing this, we're kind of growing our potential here, which kind of seems to be the theme of this game is, can we grow our potential while reducing his, which is an important aspect of Go. This was similar to our last bus ride where that was kind of the theme of the game. And he agrees. He agrees it's the theme of the game, and he is looking to reduce, or he's looking to increase his territory here. So let's play this move, which will obviously threaten to reduce. And so this is just a Sente exchange. Otherwise, he'll end up losing a lot of points in his large territory on this board. And so he does block. And so now we need to look at how we want to reduce this. We can look at just poking in from the outside. We can also look at trying to get in from the bottom. And I think I'm going to play K2 here. I like that it threatens to undercut. We can get back to here fairly easily. So let's take a look at that. Let's play K2 and see how he responds to this. Since he's got the fourth line stone here, this is a tactic that I've been using a lot recently to reduce groups. And so now we can threaten to push in. This gets us more liberties and obviously threatens to push in. And now that he blocks, we can just come back and connect to our group. And so that is what we will do. And, this is kind of flat for us, right? We're not getting a lot of points here, but we've reduced his potential somewhat. He can continue to grow if he expands out this way. And now it's his turn to reduce our potential. And so here, there is a weakness here, right? Because this is, this threatens 2 cuts. And so I might just take that. But I think first we'll take this just to get us a little more strength, but because if we play here and he looks to resist it, it'll be nice to have better shape. So that is what we are going to do. You'll notice I'm playing a lot of second line moves. We've kind of transitioned into the point of the game where we are playing second line moves, right? It's important. We've got that rule that says, not to play early first and second line moves. But we're not too early in this game. And so it is getting to the point where second line moves do become large. And so he does block. And so now we can look at this. But I don't think it will do too much because you can just block here and the push through won't really do too much. So now we're back to the same question. How do we want to either increase our potential or reduce his? And I'm looking at either reducing here or answering this move that we didn't answer way back when. And so I think that's what I'm going to do now. I think I'm just going to descend here, play yet again another second line move. I guess this is the game of somewhat early second line moves, but when there's not a lot of conflict in the game, it does kind of move to end games somewhat quickly, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Okay, so I'm not sure this is the best response. It's not Sente. We can ignore this, and we still have good follow-ups. So I think I'm going to come and reduce this as well. We've got these 2 outside stones, and we can look at playing in between them. If you think that you are behind, then you can play. You can try to play deeper. If you think you're way ahead, you can play on the outside. If you think it's a nice even game, then you can play right on this line. And so I think we're going to play right here. This will be a fine reduction. I don't think he's going to be able to stop this stone from escaping. That's kind of the point of playing on the line, is that it's hard to contain the stone. If you play inside, then it's easier for your opponent to surround you. So let's see how he answers this pretty difficult move to answer. And so he does respond by playing an inside move. And so we can look at trying to get in more. But I think it's more prudent in this situation when your opponent gives up this much by playing such an inside move. Usually that's a good enough exchange. We don't want to get greedy and play something like g6. This is a mistake that I often make, because if we play this and then he plays h9, things could get a little hairy because of the extra strength that he has here. So instead we are going to to come out first, which now threatens to come in deeper. And so we can look at that later. For now, he is doing the same thing of looking to expand his territory while reducing ours. And so we're just going to continue along, continue along growing the things. So let's play right here to help solidify this group. It'll give us another avenue to get in here. One thing that's important is when you're looking to invade or reduce, especially if you're looking to invade, you want to make sure that you don't have weak groups nearby. And because if you leave a weak group or any weaknesses, your opponent can press on those, lean on those weaknesses before then pivoting to attack the stone that you came in with. So at this point, what do we have? I think this Hane looks really big, right? This is our big potential area, especially now that we've got this nice wall here. So I think we will play this and see what we can build this into. I expect that white will Hane here because that'll keep us pretty low. If we're able to get E14, it feels like a really large move. And so he does take the Hane, and we have to extend here. I really want to Hane, but then he gets the Atari, and he can capture those 2 stones, and that is 2 Aoi. So we are going to extend, and then he Tanukis and plays over here. And so yeah, so now we just have to be more efficient than our opponent. I think that is the game that we need to be playing here. And so let's look at just seeing how far we can reduce this. And now I think we can take this endgame move because it'll come in Sente. And then we can play here, which threatens to come in and threatens to Atari this and connect up, which will end up killing these 4 stones. So he's going to be a little careful here. He has to recognize that trap, and he instead played away. So let's go take this Sente endgame. And then we're going to threaten to push in, right? That was our threat here, was that we were going to push in. And so that is what we'll do. And he should have just blocked. So let's keep on coming in and just reduce this to virtually nothing. And we can push in yet again. And we can take this cut, but I don't think we need it. We've reduced this quite a bit, but we do have to protect our cuts, right? We've got that rule, and there is a cut here. So I think just by following the rules, we have to take this, and so we will take this cut. Okay, so he recognizes what is happening there. So now he is kicking this. I'm just going to play this endgame move. And at this point, I think that's pretty much where we're at. Looks like we are at endgame at this point in time. We can, reduce this, make sure that this doesn't grow. Same with this. And then other than that, it looks like it's just going to be endgame moves. He's going to play a peep. We are absolutely going to connect here. So he's pushing. I think we can Hane here, and so that is what I'm going to do. Here we need to be a little careful, because if we Hane, it looks like there's some cuts that we need to be concerned about. So just going to connect here and make sure that he can't revive these stones. We do have kind of a tenuous connection here, so we need to be extra mindful of that. And our opponent has resigned, which is a little unexpected. I think this was still very much a game And taking a look at AI, it says that black is only up by a little bit here, that it is still absolutely a close game. So I think there was a little more fight to be had. So anyway, let's take a look at the review of this game and see where our friends could have gone a little better. Okay, so here we are in the review, and we're going to focus on the moves that White could have done to make things better. Though honestly, I think he played this really well. I think he followed the rules exceptionally well. I didn't notice really anything too crazy. I think all of his decisions make sense. I'm sure there are better moves that could be played, but up until here, even here, this could have been, this I could have been playing against another strong single digit EQ player. These are all of this makes sense. This is probably the first misstep was letting me get this. So normally what White does here is often White will just Tanuki here, right, and just immediately go and play either Tanuki, extend. That is kind of what I see when people extend here. If White's not interested in snooking, then often you just want to take this variation and keep black lower. And then here, usually black would Tanuki, and White gets a better wall, but gets so in Gote. By playing this variation, usually it's done with the intent of getting Sente. So I'd expect White to play away now. Taking this exchange doesn't really hurt too much, except that the Hane just it hits a little harder now. So when he plays away, I do get this Hane, and then we get the double Hane. But this still seems fine. And AI agrees that this is perfectly reasonable. And then this is a very intuitive move to me. This is where I would have played. I would have potentially played Q5, but like this, approaching this corner is the obvious thing to do if we are following the rules. And so all of this makes sense. And then we played here, pressured his group, and he extended. So no major comments. And then even here, I think he handled this okay. I would have expected him to connect here. This is what I was expecting. It's it's a solid play. It makes a good base with 017. These two stones are good enough by themselves. They're strong enough by themselves that you don't really have to worry about the strength there. So doing this, it's a fourth line move. Typically, we like third and fourth line moves earlier in the game. We want to save second line moves for later in the game. So playing this, this is an early second line move. It kind of moves in the wrong direction, right? Then eventually the center of the board is going to become interesting, and this side really isn't interesting because there's not a lot of points there. So I think this is better because it gets more strength for the center, which is going to be important for later in the game, and it puts more pressure on these two stones because it protects the cut. Right, there's no cut here now, so there's that one less weakness for me to poke at. When he extends here, he's got this cut that he needs to worry about. So when I play here, this cut it's looming large, right? And so he extended, and we were able to play this. He now has this cut to worry about. And so after we take this exchange and he plays here, when I extend, he now needs to extend because he didn't take this. If instead it looked like this, if he had protected his cut, well, he wouldn't have extended, right? This probably would have been here. This looks better. This is the same amount of stones, but this looks better for White than this shape here, because even later in the game we could have played this and really poked at that. Anyway, this is still all fine though. These are not big mistakes. These are pretty minor mistakes. I think the timing on this move was very good. Again, I think he played excellent. And AI tends to agree that this game was very close until we got the cut here. So we descend, he blocks, and we go here. All of this seems perfectly reasonable. This also seems reasonable. I think it may have been better if he's looking to press down to just probably take the shoulder hit and just do this variation. I think this is probably the better option here. Try to build this up. If you guys are not familiar with this variation, it's a pretty common reduction tool for two stones on the third line with the two space extension there. You shoulder hit one, and when they block, you go and attach to the other one. And it creates this cut you know, a double cut, and you choose which way you want to protect. And so in this situation, I think there's more potential here. We don't care too much about this cut as we build that. So I think that probably would have been a little better than here, because he can't grow here, right? You can grow here, you can grow here, but this stone just, it doesn't actually, you know, fix any of the border issues that he has here. And so that gives us an opportunity to strengthen us, reduce him. But again, I think all these moves are fine. I'm struggling to find like the big, like, this is the reason why white lost this game, because the moves, they're, you know, the mistakes, they're not large. I think he probably the biggest, the biggest comment I have is I do think he mishandled this. Playing this is just, this is too passive. So if you're going to block the stone, at least get up nice and cozy to it, you know, and have us push and then play here. The issue is if you play here first, Black is not going to do this. Black's not going to let you get this move. He's just going to take this for himself. So this is just a little too passive. White could have considered something as aggressive as this, because in this situation, if Black runs this way, he's running towards White's strength. So Black's going to be in a tough situation here. So White could have considered this as a better way to resist this invasion. By playing this far back, it's already a good exchange for us, and we're able to just connect out. But then he goes and grows his areas. So I think, again, I think White did fine, except for, again, I think White did really well, except for how this got handled. All these moves make a lot of sense. But yeah, once we were able to fully reduce this, this was the big miss. Once we play here, he needed to be aware that this is now here. And it's not too painful yet, but once we get F5, once we get this, now it becomes very painful, because White can't stop us from cutting him off. If he connects here, we cut, and if he connects here, we cut. So that was pretty big. White playing here instead of blocking this. So I think that's really, you know, at the end of the day, was probably going to cost White the game, was missing this cut. And then moves like this, again, he really, this is the only, I guess, critique I have is how he mishandled this as a whole. There's really no reason to not just completely block. This just lets me get further in. And then when we play here, same thing. Like, yeah, this shape is ugly. I understand. We don't want to play empty triangles. But that's still probably better than doing this and just continuing to let me come in. And then eventually we do go and get the cut, because he did leave a cut behind that we needed to go after. And then he resigned shortly thereafter. But again, I think he played this game excellent. Just missed this one cut. But that happens that happens in a lot of our games, where the games go well, you miss one thing, and the game kind of goes south after that. But that is how it goes sometimes. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, where we kind of went over how to figure out which are the large areas to expand, reduce, and see what order we wanted to do that in. Hopefully this is something that is helpful for you guys. Either way, thank you for coming out for another ride in the Strugglebus, where every wheel's an empty triangle. Have a good one, guys.